195, the Cooking Edition. I'm your host, Christine Drynan, and I am traveling to every single country in the world. On the Cooking Edition, we are bringing the world home to you through food, and today we are in the country of Algeria. I made my way to Algeria when I was in Nice, and I was actually with Bentley driving the brand new Flying Spur, which some days my job is not so bad. And because there's a direct flight between Nice and Algiers, which is the capital of Algeria, I decided to make my way there. And really, the adventure to Algeria and also a peek into the culture started when I was trying to get my visa to Algeria. And what I found is that it takes a little bit of time, but there is a facade that's hard to penetrate with Algerians. But once you get to know them, they are the warmest people in the world. This was also the first time where me getting a visa into a country was actually in question. And at first, when I went to the consulate here in New York, they told me that I wouldn't be able to get my visa because I was staying too short of a time and I wouldn't qualify for a tourist visa, and to get a business visa was very hard. But of course, I don't take no for an answer, and I got to know everyone at the consulate, and like I said, they were so incredibly friendly. Once they got to know me and they got to see that I really wanted to bring the world to Algeria through our show, the 195, and now today through the Cooking Edition. And I can tell you that I have been to a lot of countries in Northern Africa, but Algeria has the best couscous that I have ever had in my entire life. And I'm actually not even a big couscous person. But when I had the couscous there, it was so special because it was so fluffy. It was almost like light-fetted and melted in your mouth, and I couldn't get enough of that couscous in my mouth because it was so delicious. And so I did a lot of research, and what I learned is something that totally rocked my world about couscous. And that stuff that you see in the grocery stores that you just add water to, that is not real couscous. Real couscous is steamed, and it takes almost 2 hours to make. And that is what we're going to do today. And of course, because I'd like to have all of the right equipment, there's actually almost more equipment than there are ingredients. Because the first thing that we're going to do with the couscous is we are going to combine some organic chicken broth, a little bit of sea salt, and some of this saffron that I got from Afghanistan. I know that this is not exactly something you find in every kitchen, but I brought this back from Afghanistan and I can't wait to use it tonight. But we're not going to cook the couscous in here. We're actually going to pour it on top of the couscous and wet the couscous before we're actually going to steam it. Okay, we're just going to bring this chicken broth and the saffron and sea salt to a boil. And then we are going to come over and create the steam for the couscous in the couscousier. Now, you're going to ask, what's a couscousier? This is going to rock your world. This is actually my first time using my couscousier, and I am completely obsessed with it. It's so beautiful, I actually just leave it on top of my stove most of the time. But the couscousier has 3 parts. The first part is this bottom part here, which holds the water, your fennel, and whatever it is you're going to use to steam the couscous in. And then you have your steamer part, and you have the lid. But we are never going to use the lid. The lid is just for appearance. And of course you can use a couscousier for so many other things, to steam vegetables, and then you can use your lid. But for couscous, you never use the lid to steam. So the first thing we did is I filled about half of this couscousier with water. And then I'm just going to put a whole onion, a whole fennel, and then my carrots and my celery. And then we're just going to bring it to a boil. And while your couscousier bottom is boiling with water, the fennel, the onion, the carrot, the celery, and then your chicken broth, which is going to actually wet the dry couscous before you put it in the steamer, what we're going to do is we're going to prep a little bit. The steamer, which I think you can see has holes in it because that's of course how it steams, and we're going to put the couscous right in here after we wet it, so the couscous doesn't fall through. You're just going to put the steamer here on this plate. wet the couscous with that chicken broth mixture that I have on the stove. So this is definitely not as easy as the instant couscous, but it's going to be so much more delicious. We're just going to pour this right in. And you want just enough of this to actually wet the couscous, because this is going to allow the couscous to take the flavor in. And you're not going to submerge it. It's just enough to make it moist. Need a little bit more of this. And you're going to hold on to this bowl, because after an hour of steaming in the couscousier with the lid off, we are then going to fluff the couscous twice. We're going to fluff it in this big bowl after an hour, and then we're going to put it back into the couscousier for another 20 minutes, and then we're going to take it out and we're going to fluff it again. I know this sounds like a labor of love, but like I said, I dreamt of this couscous that I had when I was in Algeria. I could not stop thinking about it, and it's going to be well worth it. And do you remember what I said about not falling through these steamer holes? It's because we actually put the liquid in to the couscous before putting it into the couscousier top. And so now we're going to take this and put this on top of our steaming water. It still just boggles my mind how couscous is not falling all over the place here, but it's not. And this is steaming. So as you can see, no lid once again on the couscousier, and you're just going to let this steam under medium high for an hour, and then we're going to go check back in and fluff it up. Okay, it's back in the couscousier. Back on the stove for 20 minutes, and then another 20 minutes after that. You also want to check the water level of your couscousier. You want to make sure that there's still half of the water left in there. Otherwise, you're going to need to refill the water a little bit too. I kind of feel like it's time to make the donuts. Time to make the couscous. 2 hours later, we have this piping hot steaming bowl of couscous, and I wish you could smell this because it has all of the fennel and the carrots and everything that we put in the steamer. It's coming right through here. Couscous in itself is not supposed to be super flavorful, but it's supposed to pick up the flavors of the food you serve it with. And tonight it's going to be scallops and saganaki shrimp. But the last thing I'm going to do to finish this couscous, which it's so light and airy, it's literally going to melt in our mouths tonight for dinner. The last thing I'm going to do is you can brown some butter. I'm just putting some really high quality butter in here and letting it melt through, and then I'm going to chop some parsley so it looks really pretty. This brings me right back to Algeria, and what an adventure I had when I was there. Thank you so much for joining us on the 195 The Cooking Edition. We will see you in the next destination around the world.